Howdy, it's tubalcain again, and this is, what is it, number 20B, the answer. Go back and look at number 20A if you haven't seen it, or this may not make sense to you. And I have 20 episodes of this so far, so that's a total of 40 videos. So check those out if you're interested in some unusual tools and items. But number one in this video was this lineman's pliers, and the question was, what is this? And by consensus and what I knew, that's for splicing wire, and you can put two wires in there. I think you need two pairs of pliers, and twist one against the other, and it'll twist heavy wire together. And I believe that's what the compound joint is for, because you're basically locking it when you do that. And I suppose that would only take a certain gauge wire. But I've also had telegraph splicers that look quite different than this, and in order to splice the wires, there was a fitting that looked almost like a double tube that was joined together, made of copper, and I believe it was plated, and that was twisted with a telegraph splicer's tool, looking a little bit different than this, and that probably predates this. So that's what item one is. I was embarrassed to show this tool because I knew everybody would know what it is, and they did. And this, of course, is for safety wiring. And if you don't know what safety wiring is, let me show you an example here of an aircraft part. So quite often aircraft engines and other fittings and equipment used in aircraft or racing or other places where there's a tendency for vibration or to fly apart, and it could cause human life and tragedy if the bolts come off, and that's what this does. So let's take a look at a sample of that. And here's a sample of the aircraft wire called safety lock, and this is 32 thousandths thick. I suppose it came in different diameters, I really don't know, but there is a military specification on that as well. And this is a handy wire for general purposes around the shop too. So, and I got a lifetime supply of it. I think that's 10 pounds. I don't know where I got that. Well, I do too. It was from an auction. I had a buddy that I was teaching with all those years. He had worked, or not worked, he was in the Air Force stationed in Thailand. He worked on Phantom jets, and he showed me how to use one of those tools. That's years ago, and I'm really not adept at using this tool, so I'm not going to even attempt to show you how it works. But on this Vickers power unit here, which is a hydraulic pump, and that's made by the Hobart Company, Troy, Indiana. You know, they made welders, they made food tools and bandsaws and meat cutting saws and all kinds of things too. But during the war, evidently they made these. But there's samples of safety wiring. Just everything, all the fasteners have holes in them, and the wire passes through them. It's twisted with that tool, and you move to the next one. And just about every screw on that pump is fastened in that way. Now, I've got a question for some of you that know more about this than I do, but I have read, or I've been told by somebody, and then somebody else said, no, that's not true, that's not true. But I've been told that this does not keep the nuts or the bolts from coming loose. It keeps them from coming off and getting into something else. So correct me if that is not true. I do not know that to be a fact, but they said that it just keeps them from flying apart and getting into other things, but does not keep them from loosening up a little bit. So I don't know. So that's it for the safety wire pliers. I guess I didn't actually tell you how this works, so just one last thing, that we got a wire cutter there, and then the wires are strung between the nut, or through the hole in the nut or the bolt, and then fastened into the jaws. There's teeth in the jaws like a vise. Tighten it down real well, and then you lock it here with this lock. Then you simply pull on this, and as you pull on the Archimedes screw, it will cause this to spin. Then you loosen it up, move the wires to the next spot, or clip it off, or whatever you're doing. everyone knew what this was. I told you I was embarrassed to put it on, and I had good reason to be, and that'd be for a wood cutting bandsaw. Brass jaws to support the blade. It's a blade guide, and the blade pushed the back of the blade without the teeth, pushed up against this and spun. Could be moved in and out like the guide on any bandsaw. This is probably the upper guide. I'm not totally sure on that, but it's probably the upper guide. Too easy, too easy. This is the one that really surprised me, that everybody knew what it was, or not everybody, but most people. And of course, this is just a child's or a boy's siren off of a bicycle. And you rub this against the wheel, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. And you got a siren. This mounted to the frame, and there was a chain. I believe the chain was on here when I first acquired this, and I threw it away. But you would raise this or lower it, whatever the case, onto the wheel, the tire, and this would spin. Now the kind that boys had when I was a boy in the 50s, and I think this goes before the 50s, rubbed on the side of the tire, kind of like the little generators do, as I recall. And the chain would come up to the handlebars. You did it on the front wheel usually, and you would raise it up, and because you didn't want it in contact very long because it was so loud and annoying. And this is made by the Persons Majestic Manufacturing Company, and I did a little research on that, and they also made large sirens like that went on the hoods of ambulances and police cars years ago. So this was their toy sample of that, and all that is like a little turbine in there. And I think that it runs so fast and it whines, and this must just cut off the air or something. I don't know exactly how it works, but it is pretty neat. I really wanted one of those, and they were shiny chrome then. This has lost most of its luster. In fact, this might be nickel plated if it's that old. I'm sure this is from before the 50s, maybe the 40s or the 30s, but kind of neat. Kind of neat. And I've showed a few people this, and they didn't care. Let me rub this against the belt on my drill press, and I don't know how well the sound will carry, but we'll try it. I changed my mind. I'm going to rub it on the belt of my Logan lathe. I don't know how well this will carry. What boy wouldn't want one of those? And finally, last but least, is this device, and we never did find out for sure what the entire mechanism is, but many people guessed that it was to raise a barber chair. And you know, I just had a haircut and I went down to see Willie, and he's got ancient chairs in the shop, and I examined them carefully, and they used a hand lever to raise them and lower them. And I don't think it's for a chair, because there isn't enough stroke there. You know, it raises up an inch. No, that's not enough. Inch and a half, that's no good. But what might throw you here is this looks a little ornate here, like some of the fittings on those earlier chairs. But I don't believe it's from a chair, and somebody said it could be from a letterpress brake. But no, letterpress brakes didn't have a catch on them, the ones that I used, and they had a semicircular pad, brake pad on them. So nah, that's not off of a letterpress, but we don't know what it is, and I guess we don't care. But the real question was, what is this device? And hundreds had that correct, which I was surprised. And the answer is, it is a Dashpot. A Dashpot. Dashpots had hundreds of uses. Some of them used air, some of them used oil. This is oil, and all it does is dampen or slow down the motion. And the most common example of Dashpots that you use every day, perhaps 50 times a day, is a door closer. And it could be the cheap ones on a Larson door, or commercial ones that are hydraulic. And then the other one, of course, is shock absorbers on a car, and struts are Dashpots. And they used to have a Dashpot on a lot of carburetors. Another example of a Dashpot, but I'm not sure I'm totally correct on this, but did you ever eject a cassette tape or out of your VHS player when they used to make those, and it didn't come out real fast. It came out slowly. They didn't want it to pop out real fast. It came out relatively slowly, and that was slowed down by some type of Dashpot. So that's what that is, and I guess I got to throw this away now, because what good is it other than and I had no comments on this sear, which I thought was kind of neat. Again, you can see that it moves slowly. I hope you find some of these things interesting. I'm going to do a few more of these, but the number of views on this was minimal. Very minimal, but it's been on 2 weeks, so thanks for watching, and watch my 500 other videos. Remember that I have many videos besides the shop tips videos that at this point are about up to number 200, but there's 300 other videos that aren't numbered in that manner. So this is tubalcain saying so long for now.